Hi, this is Adrienne Barbeau, and you are listening to the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the Movie Raid. Tonight's victim is actress Adrienne Barbeau, that has done many films such as Escape from New York, has done television such as Maude.
Hi.
You've been very busy with cons and various other projects. Is there anything that you can, or at least allowed to tell us what you are currently doing or would like to share that you're promoting or anything like that? Or are you just pretty much just cruising every conference and any other opportunity you can get?
Well, let's see. I had done, it was supposed to be a recurring character on Harlan Coben's Shelter. Got one season done, and because of the strike, they're not going ahead with a second season. We were in the middle of filming a series for J.J. Abrams. Again, I was doing a recurring character, and they had to shut down completely, but I think they're back up, and hopefully we'll see that sometime, and have a new film coming out that I'm one of the executive producers, and I have just a cameo in it, really, but it's really good, called The Demon Detective. And there's always my books, but people can find out what I'm doing on my Instagram page, which is Adrienne_Barbeau, or my website, abarbeau.com. I try to keep that one up to date. I'm much more up to date with Instagram. So,
have you ever thought of continuing to generate more work with your authorship as far as writing books?
You know, what I do when I'm not acting on stage or in film or television is I do video captioning for the blind, so that if you're watching your favorite television series or your favorite, I tend to do a lot of the Blumhouse movies, or your favorite movie, or an episode of Nova, and you are visually impaired, if you put your TV on the SAP channel, you'll hear my voice or someone's voice describing what's going on screen in between the dialogue. And I really enjoy doing that because it gives me an opportunity to watch things I'd never watch on my own. It's something I can do in between acting jobs. As far as the writing goes, the last book that I worked on was called Grease, Tell Me More, Tell Me More. I was the original Rizzo in the Broadway production of Grease, the very first production of Grease, aside from the off-Broadway production that was in Chicago. For the 50th anniversary of the premiere of Grease on Broadway, we put together a collection of stories from all the actors who had ever been in the Broadway show or in the National Touring Company, or Richard Gere, the London Company, John Travolta, Mary Lou Henner, Treat Williams, Barry Bostwick, of course, because Barry was the original Zuko, Alan Paul from Manhattan Transfer. It's a collection of stories from all the actors about their auditions, their getting hired, their rehearsals, their getting fired, their going on the road, their romances, everything that was going on. And it's very delightful and touching. That was published 2 years ago for the 50th anniversary. Mostly, I'm doing video captioning and TV and movies. You know, whatever comes along, if it sounds interesting, I'm there.
Now, film and characters have changed along the way as each year passes or each era that passes. How does the times of these characters that you played, how does that affect you on the characters that you currently perform now? Does that have more depth when you perform new characters by using the past characters as what you use as for the reference, or do you completely ignore that, what is the past and this is now type of method?
I've never thought about that. I think I approach everything right from today. I read the script, and yes, I tend to get offered similar roles to what I have done in the past because that's how the industry sees me, and that's who I am. I'm not getting offered the little damsel in distress. And actually, these days, I'm not getting offered the little damsel at all, or the young damsel at all. Every script stands alone as a new piece of work, for me at least.
If you were to be offered more than one role that might be enticing to you, indie world, would you take more work of that due to the current status of everybody's job, so to speak?
Well, the strike is over. We're all back to work. In fact, there was an indie film that I was supposed to do in August, which of course got postponed, and we'll probably be doing it hopefully in another month or two. I've always done independent films. It just depends on if I'm asked and if I like it. I have a short film that is making the festival circuit right now and garnering some notice, called Oddities, and that was done, a year ago, October, I guess it was. But they couldn't really get it released until just this last year, and it doesn't matter to me, I think I should say, if it's an independent or if it's a studio film. What matters to me is if I like the project.
If you were to, let's say if it was an independent network, and when it comes to television, though, even though that's a little bit of a different ballpark, like would you want to continue to be in that, or is that something that isn't really the kind of world you want it to be, swimming in, as opposed to film? You heighten your career within that, not just film, and now that all the events that has happened has kind of cleared up now.
Sure. I mean, Harlan Coben's Shelter was an 8-episode, well, it really wasn't pitched as a limited series because it could have gone on, for Amazon Prime. And I don't know what the other one that I did, I don't know what network it was for. But again, it comes back to, do I like the character? One of my favorite jobs of all time was HBO's Carnival, because I just loved that character. That was a series. I don't see any difference in, doing something for a streaming service or doing something for a network or doing a film, except in the quality of the product, the quality of the script.
You have ranged yourself from not just film and television, but also voice work. Do you feel that self-independent in today's cinema becomes more or less like beneficial in many cases? Do you think that it's kind of like a benefactor to just the employee when it comes to the craft of it on the independence aspect?
I've never had that experience. I don't know what independence means. I mean, I get offered a role and I do it, hopefully I do it the way the director wants it, but I've never had anybody say, you can't do it this way, you have to do it our way.
A lot of artists that, when defining independence, like they want to express themselves to use their own way of presenting the character that they are hired for, but there are a lot of times where studios pretty much tell them in a subtle way that they can't do it. I mean, you like the part, want to...
I have never experienced that. The studio, if I get hired, it's because the studio has approved my hiring, and therefore they want me, and they want me to do it the way I would be doing it. I've never had anyone come to me and say, you can't do it that way, that's not the way it should be done, ever, in any medium. I might have a director come up and say, try it with a little less, I don't know what, animosity, or try it with a little more humor or something like that, and we'll try it. But not to change a performance because some studio executive doesn't like it. No.
Now, do you feel, between film and television or even voiceover work, which do you feel that whatever character that you are hired to do you feel which is more organic feel to it than cinematic? Which one do you feel comfortable and feel like this is more organic than anything else?
There are 3 different approaches. I love doing voiceover work because I don't have to put on makeup or wear a costume, It all comes down to the character. These days, when I do autograph signings, I'm amazed, even if I'm at what is known as a horror convention, probably 80% of my fans are there because of Batman, because of Catwoman. That was just a great character, but a character becomes organic because you find him or her, in my case, her primarily, and imbue her with the characteristics that you think she has.
Well, do you feel like voiceover, does that not just make you feel comfortable as far as on location or anything behind the scenes, but do you feel like you can express character-wise much easier and much more in-depth as opposed to a lot of the roles that you did in film itself?
Actually, probably not, because with voiceovers, you may not even know what's going on before you come on screen or after you leave screen. You're not working with other actors. I got called to do An American Dad, and I was so looking forward to it because they said I was playing a 90-year-old French maid, and they said I had a sex scene with Carl Reiner. And I thought, oh, this is going to be so much fun. Well, unfortunately, it was just me in the booth. Carl Reiner was nowhere to be found, So there was nobody to play off of. So that makes it more difficult sometimes. But they're really two different approaches. I mean, in voice work, all you have is your voice. Fortunately, when we did Batman, we had a booth director who had the scenes in front of her so that if Catwoman was jumping off of a tall building and I made the jump and I landed, she could say to me, Adrienne, the building is 3 times that tall. So that would imbue my jump with a lot more energy and my landing with a lot more noise. That's what's missing in my voiceover work. I do a lot of video games, and the producer or the director will say, our player is going to turn to you and say something. And then I say the line or something. So you're a little more in the dark with voice work.
Now, you yourself have attended so many cons and other appearances, and a lot of people enjoy with the Batman, and of course with Creepshow, I'm sure without a doubt. And oftentimes you see a lot of these actors and actresses go to these cons because a lot of times they're out of work too. And do you feel that sometimes this can be a reliable revenue for you? Not just for meeting fans and enjoying what they enjoy for you, but do you feel like, does this help, or can this actually hurt some artists financially?
I can't imagine that it would hurt anyone financially, and certainly it's an extra income, and that's always nice to have. But I do them because it's nice to make the money, but I do them because they're very gratifying. I enjoy people. And I enjoy talking to people, and I enjoy meeting people, and I enjoy seeing my close friends who live on the other coast, like Tommy Atkins or Barry Bostwick, when we all end up in the same place together to do a con. It's a great, fun weekend. One of the most delightful ones I ever did, I flew to Malmö, Sweden, and when it was over, the producer was gracious enough to drive me to Copenhagen, where my son was, and I got to spend a week in Copenhagen. I do maybe 3 or 4 a year, and yes, it would be disingenuous to say, oh, no, I don't care about the money. It's nice to have the money, too.
How do you feel that, even though they see you from the iconic roles, or at least to them is like legendary roles in their eyes because they grew up with it, or they just became accustomed to enjoying the character that you play as, do you feel that, some of these artists can actually be either, eventually pigeonholed, be based on that, going to these appearances and so forth? Granted, it's nice, but at the same time, a lot of people just know them for that one role or X amount of roles. And do you feel that can kind of put them in that same position any other future roles despite that?
Well, certainly. I mean, the industry has a history of trying to pigeonhole their actors. I mean, I started out on Broadway. I was a musical comedy star, and I got hired to do a half-hour sitcom, Maude, and for the first 4 years I was in L.A., I couldn't get seen for dramatic roles because everyone said she's a sitcom star. Before that, she was a musical comedy star. Then once the dramatic roles started, and this was back in the 70s, if you were doing television, you couldn't get seen for film because the prevailing thought at that time was nobody's going to pay to see you in a movie theater if they can see you for free every Tuesday night. And then because my first film was The Fog, and I was associated with John Carpenter, and then we did, I don't know what else, I did a couple of others in between, but then we did Escape. Then suddenly I was a horror film actress, even though I did Cannonball Run and I did Back to School. And so there is that desire on the part of casting people, I guess, or producers, to put you in a box. I don't know if you've read, Henry Winkler talks at length about when he finished doing Happy Days, The Fonz, he could not get hired. He just couldn't get hired for a long time, and it sent him on other paths, doing other things. And I think Sally Struthers was another example of that, going back to the 70s. She was so identified with her role in All in the Family that she went on to a huge career as a theater actress, but never really, she couldn't get hired for other things, at least initially. Now, if you've got, 20 million followers on Instagram, you're going to get hired. It doesn't even matter if you can act. So the industry has changed.
between even further than that, you had, even shows like The Munsters. Its cast themselves, a lot of its cast were in a lot of dramatic and musical and very, serious roles, and until they're recognized for this, and then popularity generated with this show, and then now these actors, or some of these actors, could not get work because they saw them as, oh, well, he plays this silly character on this little family-friendly oriented show. We're not going to have you on this. And they did have problems with that, several casts. And I can't say, as far as, Butch Patrick, but like the rest of them, I mean, they had quite a bit of a few films underneath their belts, and they were even nervous even wanting to continue to do the show because they couldn't really get the roles that they wanted, the desired later on in their careers.
Yeah, I've been fortunate because I've been working since 1963. I've just been very fortunate, and I was sort of able to break out of all of that. But it took time.
Go ahead and plug in any websites or any advice or any books that we can check out right now.
Things I have coming up next. Well, the Holly Shorts Festival in Los Angeles is hosting an evening with Adrienne Barbeau at Grauman's Chinese on February 28th. They're going to show 2 of my short films, Alice Jacobs is Dead, which is the first zombie movie I ever did, and Oddities, which is the one I mentioned earlier that is right now making the rounds of the festival circuit. I hope your audience keeps an eye out for The Demon Detective. I'm not sure when it'll be premiering, but it's going to be around, and it's good. Happy to have people read my memoir. There are worse things I could do, which is, the title is from the song that I sang as Rizzo in Grease. Vampires of Hollywood series, they're just fun. And Grease, Tell Me More, Tell Me More, if you're interested in acting or in theater or in Grease. I've been told by several people that it's a really good handbook for actors who are just starting out because it really tells the tale of what it's like to try and get work. And my Instagram page is Adrienne_Barbeau. I keep it as up to date as I can. And my website is abarbeau.com, and try to keep that up to date. I don't use Facebook very much. My Instagram page shows up on Facebook, but I never look at Facebook. I don't do any of the others. So
there you have it, everybody. That is actress Adrienne Barbeau.